Greetings all. Welcome back to the Big Island, where the navel of the earth is constantly producing new land. Well, there's much news about the volcano today, but I want to start in the garden, since this is a lava garden report. Over here we have an ear of corn. The corn is getting ripe in the patch. The way we tell is we wait for the silks to begin to brown. First you get silk, it comes on and it'll be kind of white. Later, the silk will turn brown. As the silk browns out, which is maybe about 2 weeks after the emergence of the white silk, when it browns out, then you grab the cob, give it a good squeeze, and go, feels fat. That's usually a good indicator. Next thing we do is we peek. And so, oh yeah, there she is. That looks like sweet corn to me. So the corn is harvested by breaking downward. Oh, absolutely. What a beauty. This is the Hawaiian Super Sweet number 10. That's a really, really good corn. Got another one here. I guess I'll peek, huh? Oh, sure enough. Yep. Nice brown silk. See? Peel her down. And what do we find? We find a beautiful ear of very nice ripe corn. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Lunch is gonna be good. And we have the ahi dulce peppers, nice and ripe here today too. I think these are gonna go into some tuna burgers today. I have some ahi tuna that I will make burgers out of with sweet corn. Well, there are more vegetables out there we could talk about in the garden today, but I think I'm going to shift gears. We'll go into lava. All right, let's go to volcanoes. It's been interesting. There's so much news report out there that I'm not going to give a whole lot of information as far as those details. I'll just again remind people that both the USGS volcano people here on the island and Big Island Videos, video news, BigIslandVideoNews.com. That's the name of the place. Those guys, they've got it all over there. It's all piled up over there on YouTube. Just type that in there, Big Island Video News. It'll all come up, and they really probably have the best stuff, because you're going to hear from the volcanologists, you're going to hear from people in charge of the roads, you're going to hear from the mayor, and they're going to have visuals that almost nobody else could give you of this. So if you can't be here to watch it in person, hey, check out the news. As for my comments on this, well, I believe my position in the whole thing is talk story. Yeah, I'm not going to go out there on the lava flow and drop my ancient butt into a puka, and end up taking stitches like my buddy Jim did and so on. Yeah, it's pretty dangerous territory, so we'll see what we can do about visuals. As you can see on the last video, we did go on over to the other side of the mountain yesterday afternoon and have a look at things. Apparently, if you want to actually see the glow on the streams, you have to be there in more dim light. I couldn't really hardly pick up the glow, even though we were standing right in front of the streams. And as far as the island in general is concerned, I guess our biggest problem right now with all this, the biggest nail biter, is, are we going to lose the Daniel K. Inouye Highway? Is it going to be crossed? Most likely this will happen. It's pretty likely, but I guess if we all sit around and hope that maybe it won't happen, it may slow down, because the lava is now approaching a flat. It has been coming down this strong slope from up around 10,000 feet up there, and it's been dropping downward at a pretty good clip. But now it's hit the flat country below, and it's slowing down, and it's anybody's guess what's going to happen next. But if I was at a roulette table, I guess I'd put my money on the road's going to close, which will affect all of us. It's going to affect everybody from tourists to people who haul trash to, it'll affect the U.S. Army even. It's going to mess with everybody if that road closes. Ever since World War II, there has been a road across that track through there called the Saddle Road, and it's called the Saddle Road because of the two mountains that make a saddle and it runs down between them. The U.S. Army made that road originally during World War II. They had no way to rapidly get between Kona and Hilo on the opposite sides of the island. So, in their infinite wisdom, they took some old caterpillars and they went on through there and they plowed out a road across the lava flows over the middle of the island that was suitable for moving things like, Army deuce and a halves, Jeeps, stuff like that. Heavy equipment. It wasn't made for cars, that's for sure. Right, Gracie? No, it wasn't made for cars. Anyway, so after the war was over, the Army turned the road over to the county. And so it's now our road. We do whatever we wanted to with it. Well, it was just dirt, rock, lava, and so on. And so the county did eventually get in there and put some pavement over most of this. It narrows a little. Bad road. It was such a bad road that the first time I saw it, if you rented a car, they'd tell you, oh no, you cannot take it on that road. Yeah, there were bans on taking your rental cars on the Saddle Road, which of course, for me, was enough to encourage me the first time I rented a car here was to say, I gotta find out. Yep. And I launched a Saturn. I hate Saturns. That was the worst thing GM ever made. Totally non-intuitive automobile. Twice on the same grade, I launched a Saturn. We were aerial, like a Steve McQueen bullet, in a Mustang. I saw another man at one point do the same exact thing in a pickup truck, but he turned it upside down when he left the road. It wasn't pretty. Anyway, so then the road had actually never really been cut for a grade. No one ever flattened the terrain. And so some of these drops on that road were extreme, really, really, really extreme. Well, then not long ago, they came in and they made the DKI, the Daniel K. Inouye Highway, ran through there over near where the old Saddle Road had gone. And, it's beautiful. Oh, I loved it. Man, oh man. You could do 60, 65 miles an hour up there legally and, a little faster if you want to under some conditions. Right now, though, it's not at all safe. That's one of the big problems at the moment. Losing the road, that's one problem. Problem number two, wow, the looky-loos. Everybody, I don't care whether you're, a tourist, never been here, old-time long residents on the island or whatever. Everybody wants to see this stuff. It's very exciting. And so they are making a mess out there. There were some accidents. There are some injuries. People getting hit. There is a complete ban against parking along the roadside now. I think it's between the 16-mile marker and maybe the 32, somewhere right in there. The general area where you might see the flow from. You cannot put your car on the shoulder of the road. You have to find some sort of a parking area. There are a few. But you can't be on that road shoulder. The signs are up clearly indicating that it is $1,000 parking ticket. I've never seen $1,000 parking ticket in my entire life. I mean, I have well over $1,000 worth of parking tickets in the city of Chicago from when I was a commercial truck driver and used to double park all the time. But, it's like 50 tickets or 100 tickets or whatever. This is one ticket, man. One ticket for $1,000, and they did issue several yesterday. I think I heard there were about 7 citations. Whew. That's pretty steep. It ain't worth looking at the lava, you know? Right, Gracie? Nope. Yeah, she's here with me. Gracie, you want to say hello to everybody? No. Yeah, so that's problem number 2. Definitely, if you go up there to look, stick to the places where you're supposed to be. You can tell there are spots near the right there near where the old observatory road was for the weather observatory road for Mauna Loa, and across there is Mauna Kea's road that goes up for the observatories. Just beyond that, there was an area where you could park. And you can get a pretty good view from there, too. But these are very specific and immediate things that are obvious, that are problems. Obviously, we all know what the joy is. We got lava! But, you know, there is another sort of a problem. It's not as obvious, but it's much broader. It can affect everybody here and even the other islands, and that has to do with the SO2 emissions, the sulfur dioxide, the Pele's hair, the glass emissions. There's glass fiber, like glass wool. It's been 10 miles away from the eruption. They've been finding Pele's hair. Of course, there could be ash. There is dust and things like this. You know, these are not as hazardous, but just the acid rain factor is this. This is a new thing for me here on this island, because Kilauea, I've seen many eruptions. It's quite frequent, and Kilauea, you know, is really not much more than 4,000 feet up, and actually, it's below ground level if you live in Volcano. Yeah, the caldera is under your feet, and so it's a low-level event. Even when it's really cranking, you know, like when Hele Ma'u opened up for the first time back in 2009, there we had an enormous ejecta. It was probably going up almost 20,000 feet. The pressure was so good, but mostly the stuff stays near the ground. It stays down low, and so it can get to us, man. It'll settle in places and just get so thick. Well, this is a bit different because Mauna Loa is so high. You know, it's almost 14,000 feet, 13,700, and forget it. I don't know. Anyway, 14,000 feet. And so what it puts out is ejecting almost 10,000 feet higher in the air than Kilauea's material. So the stuff will carry further for sure. Under the right circumstances, that's good for us because it will tend to sweep it away. It will probably get into the upper atmospheric winds and move somewhere else, like Japan. Okay, but last night, the wind speed, at least here at ground level in Puna, dropped down. Yeah, and I don't think the upper atmospheric winds were moving very much either. Whatever was going on, we ended up with a plume over the top over here. It probably covered Hilo. It definitely covered parts of Puna. I can tell immediately when the SO2 starts building up in the air. I have a built-in SO2 meter. My throat begins to constrict. Yeah, my throat will tighten up. I find it hard to breathe real fast. Apparently before almost anybody else, because I'll be telling everybody, we got to go, we got to go, we got to get out of here. The sulfur is building up. We must leave. And they're going, huh? What? Yeah, it's usually the case. Sometimes it's almost belligerent. People don't want to believe me. They don't want to leave, and I get stuck. I burned my lungs one time this way because of somebody who refused to leave the eruption. Anyway, I felt it last night. I was just finishing dinner, and all of a sudden, uh-oh. I felt like I was sitting on the rim of Kilauea on the caldera watching. You know, Yeah, and so I suddenly realized I started running around and shutting all the windows in the house to try to, keep that air from moving inside the building. And so then I put out a vessel to collect rainwater, and sure enough, we have a 6.5 was the pH level in the water, and that's not our normal pH. Here in Puna, ordinarily, it's a 7, which is perfectly neutral, pure water. We get very pure rainwater here, and it was contaminated with sulfur. It made it slightly acidic. Not acidic enough to get too worried about yet. 6.5 is what I call Chicago normal pH. Chicago never gets a 7 rainfall. It's always going to have some acid in it. And I guess we survive it. So the one concern I have for people, though, as this moves along, I know many of you raise fish. And if you have fish in ponds or tanks or whatever you're doing, I have tilapia here, and mine are, the water comes from the roof, and so I'm using rainwater. It's a catchment system, and I'll be monitoring the pH of that water, because if it starts dropping much below 6.5 coming down the catchment system, I'm going to turn the spouts, and I'm not going to allow that water to run into my tank, because if it gets too low, it's going to kill all the fish. So watch for that. If you got fish, watch for it. There's no way you can control what falls directly from the sky into the ponds, but if you're using catchment, you can control that flow, and you don't want to be acidifying your tanks. This sort of a problem with potential acid rain, with VOG, and that sort of effect. This is big. I mean, they get that on Oahu, okay? I mean, the other islands pick up these effects from this island, too. This island, there's really almost nobody here who will be immune from those types of effects, from acid rain, probably from some of the dirt and soot that comes off that thing, maybe from the Pele's hair even, depending. And definitely the gas. Depending on the weather conditions, it can blow from the east to the west and build up on the west side. I've been in Kona when the air was almost completely unbreathable. The worst places in the past, I believe, with Kilauea, were actually the South Point area. You get down that way towards Pahala and Lehu, and it would build up horrible in there. Right now, Hove, that is Hawaiian Ocean View Estates, which is pitched up the slope of Mauna Loa over there, on the opposite side from where the eruption is flowing lava right now. And so they're in luck as far as the lava is concerned, but boy, I don't know. The gas and the crud from that thing, if you're in Hove, watch it. Just, that's all I could say, because if the wind turns so it's not in your favor, right now it's blowing away from y'all and you're in great shape. As long as that keeps up, you'll be fine. But if that gas turns, that's probably not going to be a place you can be, period. As I said, I don't know. This is a rather new thing as far as the weather conditions that come from it. I am not familiar with the past history as far as what it was like near the caldera in 1984. I wasn't here, but I can make a pretty good guess. If the wind turns, Hove's going to be in big trouble as far as being able to breathe. So, yeah, those are the big issues. Otherwise, I think, those of you who've been sitting around wishing you could own a piece of Big Island real estate, well, usually in the past, this type of an event has had a double effect on our economy here. Okay, the price of real estate will often come down some. Okay, that's the boom in the market, the fury. People go, oh, wait a minute, there's a volcano on the island? Yeah, right. And the effect, like we had eruptions in Leilani, okay, a while back, and that's in the very far kind of southeastern corner over here. But property values in Kona went down. That's the far western side of the island. because a lot of the market here is off island. People who live here kind of know the difference usually, but people off island actually kind of generalize the market. And if it's the problems in Leilani on the southeast and Kona's in the due west, the values can come down there too. This has happened. In fact, some of the eruptions have actually lowered property values on Oahu temporarily. Yeah, cools the markets off. Volcanoes get hot, the markets get cool. This is probable. It's probable that we'll see some reduction in prices or some cooling of the market. On the other hand, the stimulation to the local economy here is real strong because the tourists just, they got to see this stuff. And even the locals that might have been sitting home, on my porch drinking a beer or something. Instead, I'm out wandering around the island too, trying to get a look at this stuff, taking pictures, and so I'll be eating a hamburger in some place I've never been to, it's very stimulating to the local tourist economy. When these things happen, people will come from every corner of the planet. It's not going to be as big this time because the dollar is so strong. Coming here from Japan or coming here from Europe is a lot more expensive than it was. We not only had inflation, but now our dollar is strong against the euro and the yen and stuff, and so it gets more and more expensive for everybody. We might not see. I have a feeling we're going to see a massive amount of tourists, mostly from the western United States, and California and the Bay Area in particular, probably Los Angeles too. Right now, they're leading the pack. Yeah, their dollar is as good as the dollar here. It's all the same money, and so whatever situation we're in because of inflation, at least there isn't another added factor like evaluation of the dollar. Well, and then, of course, the Daniel K. Inouye Highway is, to us, very important, okay? Even when it was just the saddle road, it still had some value. But the new highway really opened up things on this island. We could get from one side of the island to the other so quickly and so easily. It was a nice drive, pretty, it was really good. A very, very pleasant way to travel across the island. Well, when that stops, there'll be a bunch of stuff, people who hauled gas around, people who hauled garbage, people who haul all sorts of things, the commercial trucks that were going back and forth using that route. That's going to really affect things there. But then there's a whole lot of people that, live on this side, work on that side, and vice versa. And so they're going to be severely impacted. And perhaps there are people who would not have even considered taking a job in Kona and living in Hilo before the highway was built. And so I got some real considerations to what to do. On the other hand, it's going to be really good for the economy in a lot of underserved communities. Because where the tourists and other people didn't have to travel through, say, Naalehu, for instance, on the south end, or didn't necessarily have to go through Waimea up on the top to get around the island. Now they're going to have to do it. And so if you go in that way, good chance you're going to stop in Waimea for lunch, If you end up down there in Naalehu, my suggestion is do the bakery. I don't think the sandwiches are any big deal, but wow, the malasadas are just, oh man, they're good. Well, if the rain holds off, it looks like today is going to be my day to return to the garden planting onions. That's the sweet bulbing onions. Short day types. I'll be planting perennial scallions like Koba, that's multiplier type onions that we eat green. I'll also be planting leeks too. I have tables out here just full of these plants, and I have extras if there's anybody out there that wants to try growing sweet onions or try growing leeks. I'd say the sweet onions may be the most challenging. There's more things that can go wrong with that crop than with things like leeks, or scallions or chives or so on. You want to make your life really simple? Try growing leeks here. That was a first for me this last year. I've grown leeks, wow, going way back. I mean, probably 20 years old, first time I planted a leek. But I've grown them in multiple different states, but it was the first here in Hawaii. The leek is not affected by the day lengths. The leek does really, really well here. And of course, it's not exactly an onion. So when you put it in a soup, everybody's going to go, what is this marvelous tasting thing? Because most of us aren't familiar, with eating leek. There's a French recipes out there for vichyssoise, the leek potato soup. Koba, the Japanese multiplier scallion, produces perfect, beautiful white scallions, just like the ones you're going to see in the markets. And it does it on a perennial basis as they multiply from the crowns. You pull one up, another one comes. They produce seed too, so that drops and even makes more of them. Pretty much, if you have Koba in the garden, you can eat green onions every day, and they are also very mild and tender. I've grown a lot of multiplier type scallion things in the past, winter boar and different types of winter onions and things, and I've run across one like this. This one is tender, sweet, and productive, so that's a real winner. If you've gotten tired of trying to raise bulb onions and it hasn't been working out for you, live with green onions. A lot of times I use scallions in a lot of different food, but I will also replace scallions with chives often. Chives are excellent here. And you can plant huge patches of these things. And I go out with a knife or a pair of scissors and whack that stuff off, bring it in the kitchen. Again, I'm using Dolores, which is a specific chive variety. And it's mild, it's sweet, it's highly productive, and it never stops. That's the point. It's year-round. Going on. It does more blooming of flowers during the summer and not so much in the winter, but it just really keeps going and going and going. And, there's an onion for you. I've never really looked into this. Generally, I'm kind of into nutrition, but I'm well aware that onions, for instance, are a fattening vegetable. Onions are sugary, right? And so they're not necessarily the healthiest food, I guess, when it comes to a vegetable due to the high sugar content. On the other hand, the sulfur content is real good for us. It helps prevent disease. There's a lot of value in this plant, but there should be a significant difference in nutrition between the green part and the white part. And so I suspect the green parts of onions are probably pretty good for you as far as vitamins, minerals. I'll look it up one of these days. Well, there you go. Lava gardens. Welcome to Hawaii. Hang loose, folks. Until later.